Welcome back, my venerable viewer, to today's episode of your Grammar Police. As usual, I am your Grammar Police. My name is Prinze. I have a lesson for you today, a lesson that is very dear to my heart, a lesson that is very important to me, a lesson that I think is very important to you too, a lesson that everyone should know. It is so useful, and the sad thing about this is that a lot of people do not know this, and because they do not know, they make a lot of mistakes. A lot of the mistakes I have been correcting in English come from ignorance of this lesson we are going to have today. I go to a lot of places, I interact with a lot of people, I teach a lot of people English, I correct a lot of people's grammar, and most of the mistakes that I usually almost always come across and correct come from ignorance of this rule. Actually, we are going to talk about phonetics today, and here we are going to correct a wrong pronunciation, but it is not going to be a pronunciation. We are going to learn the rule and then see a lot of words that obey the rule and that have been wrongly pronounced or mispronounced over the years. Then we learn how to correct them. Yes, there are exceptions. Some words look like they obey the rule, but they actually do not. They are exceptions. We are going to look at them too. I want you to understand that the explanation I am going to give you today in this video is not so technical. I'm not going to explain in technical phonics terms. This is because I want any ordinary or average learner who watches this video to be able to understand this lesson. What is this rule that I have been so loud about? This rule that I am so passionate about? This rule that it's so dear to my heart? This rule that I deem so important to you, the viewer?
I'm a jack of all trades. I come in all shades. When I rhyme, I'm like a time bomb.
In the world do you think you are?
Oh, I'm the grammar police. You better speak right. And when it comes to your vocab, you better keep it tight. So who am I?
Let me start it this way. This rule has conditions to satisfy. If a word, not a phrase, not a sentence, if a word obeys the rule, then it must satisfy all the conditions. I'm going to give you 3 conditions. It must be just a word. That word must not start with an S. The spelling of that word must not end with an S. It could start with an S and end with an S. But my emphasis is on one S that is not the first letter of the word and not the last letter of the word. So that S is neither the first nor the last of the word. If you have an S, it should be one S. There shouldn't be 2 S's, just one S. And if that one S is found in the middle, somewhere in the middle of the word, so S is a letter and it is found somewhere in the middle of the word. Somewhere in the middle of the word is to say that it does not begin the word and it does not end the word. It shouldn't be the first letter of the word and it shouldn't be the last letter of the word. Even if you have the first letter of the word as an S and the last letter of the word as an S and another S somewhere in between 2 different letters in the word, my emphasis is on that S that is in between 2 different letters within the word and not the 2 S's at the 2 extremes of the word. Okay, so these are the conditions. The S should not be the first letter of the word. It should not be the last letter of the word, but it should be in between 2 different letters of the word. And these 2 letters of the word should both be vowels. So that S should be in between 2 vowels. Alright, let's use this as an example. V-I-S-A. V-I-S-A is pronounced visa. You're wondering why I did not say visa, huh? Okay, I did not say visa because of the rule that we are going to learn. There is only one S in visa, and that S is not the first letter of visa. It is not the last letter of visa. It is just between I and A. Between I and A, because I is a vowel, A is also a vowel. This word has that S that satisfies all the conditions I mentioned. It does not begin the word, it does not end the word. It is in between two letters in the word, and it is in between two vowels. It satisfies all three conditions. When you have a word that has an S like this, and the S is just one S, then the rule is that that S assumes the sound of a Z. Okay? It assumes the sound of a Z. If it is just one S in between two vowels in a word, then it is not pronounced as an S. Whatever the word is, when you mention the word, the sound becomes a Z sound. That is why I said visa instead of visa. According to the rule, it is wrong to say visa. Visa is not an option. It is wrong. The correct pronunciation is visa. Take note of that. Now that you understand the rule, and then you also know the right pronunciation of visa, let me give you a list of words that obey this rule and that satisfy the conditions of the rule. I have already said visa is not mentioned as visa. It is rather mentioned as visa. We have another word called prose. P-R-O-S-E. Prose is one of the types of literature, and it is not called prose. It is called prose. That S is between O and E in the word. It also satisfies all the conditions of the rule. So it takes a Z sound instead of that ordinary S sound. So we call it prose instead of prose. I hope you get that right. We've been asking our children and people to close their door. When are you closing from lectures? We have closed. Today we will close at 2. It is wrong to say close. That S there does not have the S sound. It has the Z sound because the S is between O and E. It is between two vowels in the word. So we say close. Please close the door. Please close the door. That is what you have to say. So we have close instead of close. We have closing instead of closing. Take note of that. We also have reside instead of reside. I reside in Antioch. I reside in La Paz. I reside in Texas. I reside in Oklahoma. I reside in New York. Yeah, we don't say reside. Reside is wrong according to the rule. It is reside. And we have positive. Listen how I mentioned the word positive. It is not positive. It is not positive because the S is between O and I. O and I are both vowels. And that S is not the first letter of the word. It is neither the last letter of the word. So it satisfies all the conditions of the rule. So it obeys the rule. And that is why we say positive instead of positive. Get that right. We also have hesitate. H-E-S-I-T-A-T-E. It's not hesitate. It's not hesitate. The word is hesitate. And you know why it is hesitate, because it obeys the rule. It satisfies the conditions. It is that S is between E and I. So we have hesitate. R-I-S-E is not rise. It is rise. So you rise up. You do not rise up. Okay? So learn these correct pronunciations. You have been mispronouncing them perhaps because you did not know the rule. You did not even know there was a rule about this. But in phonetics, there are a lot of rules. In another video, we learned the rules about digraphs. In this video, we are learning the rules about the use of S in a word, how it sounds. Okay, so we have expose instead of expose. I will expose you is wrong. We say I will expose you. That Z sound must be heard. It's not expose. Now note that all pronunciations I have given you are IPA pronunciations. I have verified all these pronunciations before bringing them to you. And when I say IPA, I mean International Phonetics Association. These are International Phonetics Association approved pronunciations of all the words that I'm giving you. And I brainstormed the words. These are words I regularly use, so they came in handy. You can brainstorm more if you have time. So we have risen, risen, rises, rose instead of rose. If you have a rose flower and you want to give that as a gift to your wife or your girlfriend or anybody at all, you don't say rose flower, it's rose. That's the correct pronunciation of the word. Rose is a name that we give to females, so it's a feminine name. You don't say rose. If you have a sister or your mother is called Rose, from hence call them Rose instead of Rose. We have residence or resident instead of resident. Don't say I am a resident of this area. You say I am a resident of this area. I am going to his residence. I am going to the airport residential area. It is not residential area. The S sound is wrong and the Z sound is right. Okay, we have present instead of present. Where is he? Is he here? No, he isn't present now. This is the correct thing to say. He isn't present now. You do not say he isn't present now. If you have a gift you want to give to someone, it is also a present, not a present. How do you use that in the verb form? Present, not present. Okay, you say represent instead of represent. I am a representative, not a representative. Okay, we have a presentation, not a presentation. I have heard a very prominent person say presentation before. I only guessed she did not know the rule or did not put the rule to use. But the correct thing to say is presentation. This is IPA pronunciation. Presentation. You do not say enthusiastic or enthusiasm, because the rule has it that the S is between you and I, which are both vowels, and the S doesn't start the word or doesn't end the word. It satisfies all the conditions, and once it satisfies the conditions, it obeys the rule. So we have enthusiastic, enthusiast, enthusiasm. This may not be so common to you. You may not be used to saying these words this way, but you have to learn, and that is the reason you are watching this video. Learn it right. Learn it the way you ought to. Do not learn it the way you want it. Okay? Do not accept it the way that sounds good to your ears. Accept it the way it should be accepted. And the word is enthusiasm, not enthusiasm. There are other words I brainstormed for you, such as ease. It's not ease. Have you ever heard anybody say easy before? No. It's always easy. Have you ever wondered why that word is easy even though it has that S and not Z? Yes, it is because of this rule. We say easy, okay? I'm easing myself, not I'm easing myself. We have praise, praises, and praising. We praise God. We don't praise God. We are praising God. We are not praising God. We have verbose instead of verbose because the spelling has the S between O and E, and that satisfies all the conditions. We have organize. Now note that the word organize has different spellings. You can have a spelling with a Z sound, which is actually the correct organize, and you can have the spelling with the S in it. Whether you have the S or the Z, anyways, the pronunciation is still organize, because when it is Z, automatically you mention the Z sound, but when it is S, then you fall back to the rule. So that S changes to Z in the pronunciation. So you still have organize. So organizing, organized, we will organize, organization. You don't say organization. We have desert instead of desert. If you have understood the rule, you will know why it is desert instead of desert. We have deserve. Have you ever said deserve? Am I deserving of this? You do not deserve that. You don't say deserve. It's always deserve because it is according to the rule. So now you believe the rule is actually a rule. You can find out. It is a very, very solid rule, and we do not have to play with that rule at all. If you want your grammar, your English to sound good and correct, then you have to go according to the rule. And then we have design. These words are bringing out the fact that the rule has been in use for a long time. Why don't you say design? We say design, we say resign. Okay, you have design, resign, and all of them have the Z sounds because they are mentioned according to the rule. Then we have resort. We've tried all means. It wasn't possible, so now we have to resort to force or using force. Okay, you do not resort to, you resort to, because resort has the S between E and O. They are both vowels. It obeys the rule, it satisfies the conditions. That is it. We erase, we do not erase. When you write with a pencil, you erase, and that's why we have eraser, not eraser. Okay, then we have resentful or resentment. You do not say resentment or resentful. You have to say resentment or resentful. When you follow the spelling of resentment or resentful on your screen, you will know that it is only one S and it obeys the rule by satisfying all the conditions. U-S-E. How do you mention that word? Use, using, using, usage, usage. Which is the correct thing? I hope by now you have the rule already and you know that use is wrong, using is wrong, usage is wrong. The correct things to say are use, using, and usage. These are the correct pronunciations of those words. Then we have opposite. We do not have opposite. Stop saying opposite. It is very, very wrong. And you hear a lot of big people, a lot of prominent people, a lot of lecturers saying opposite. So you find it difficult to believe that those people can actually make mistake with these simple words. Of course they could, because they may not have come into contact with this rule before. Now you have, so you know that it is a rule as a matter of fact. So you go according to the rule. Then we have desire instead of desire. Alright, we do not say desire. I have a lot of desires, things I want to achieve and accomplish. You do not say desire. How do you mention J-E-S-U-S? A lot of people say Jesus, but the rule says the word should be mentioned as Jesus. It has that Z sound because the S is between E and U. You see how passionate I am about the rule? So we say Jesus instead of Jesus. Okay? I would not be able to give you all the words in English that obey the rule. I would stop mentioning them here. You, as you read, as you speak, as you listen, anytime you come across a word and you doubt whether it is actually according to the rule, verify it. If it is following the rule, you give it the Z sound. Alright, now that we have learned all these things, there is something else I don't want you to not know. I really want you to put this at the back of your head, that it is not every word that has an S in it satisfying the conditions that will be given the Z sound. There are a few words that are called exceptions. They are called exceptions because they actually satisfy the conditions, but we still do not give them the Z sound. Those words are exempted. They are taken aside. We put them aside and do not treat them as obedient to the rule. So they disobey the rule. They flout the rule. These exceptions include CASE, case. So if you have your phone case, of course, the S in case is between A and E. Yes, it is between two vowels. It doesn't start the word and it doesn't end the word. It satisfies all the conditions. Yet we still do not give the Z sound. We don't say case or casen. It is case and casen. Do you have a case with the police? No, you do not have any case. You do not say case because this is an exception. So take note, to every rule there is an exception, or there are exceptions. And these are the things we must take note of. Increase is mentioned as increase because it is an exception. Decrease or decrease is mentioned as decrease. It's an exception. So increase, increasing, decrease, decreasing. These are right. They are correct to be mentioned as decrease and decreasing, increase and increasing, or increase and increasing, decrease and decreasing. These are they are correct pronunciations. They are mentioned as S even though they obey and satisfy the conditions because they are exceptions. We have base. I'm talking based on, not based on. People make this mistake too. You don't talk based on, you talk based on. That sound should be that S sound, the ordinary S sound, because it's an exception. So we have basic. Yes, my school is a basic school. It's not a basic school. Exceptions are not treated as the words that follow the rule. So we have a basic school, which is wrong. It must be what? A basic school. Step aside. In aside, you can see that S is between A and I. Yes, it is between two vowels. It doesn't start the word, it doesn't end the word. Yet we do not call it aside. It is aside. That is the correct pronunciation. So these are exceptions to the rule. And then we have beside. Beside is also an exception to the rule. We have grease. Grease is also an exception to the rule. So we have grease, greasing. These are all exceptions to the rule. Then we have resit. Have you ever sat an examination twice, or a paper twice, or thrice, or even more? When you write it the first time and you have to write it again, you are resitting the paper. Now, in the spelling of resit, you can see that the S is between E and I. So resit should have been mentioned as resit, but because it is an exception, we still call it resit. We maintain the ordinary S sound for it. So the exceptions do not obey the rule, even though they satisfy all the conditions that serve as premises to the rule. I hope you have understood this. So the exceptions do not have any Z sound. Get that right. The exceptions do not have any Z sound, even though they satisfy all the conditions.